This One's Wife. What really happened when she joined the royal family? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. It's often useful for you to look again at situations that happened in the past, now armed with two things. Your knowledge about narcissism, provided to you courtesy of your glorious narrator, and also the knowledge that you've acquired of events that have come to pass, that you're able to look back at historic events through the lens of knowing more information about what has gone on since that event, so that things fall into place. Things perhaps make more sense. For instance, from time to time I repost older videos of mine, both about This One's Wife and the subject of narcissism, and the same way that I repost blog articles that I wrote some time ago, because as people progress through their journey of understanding narcissism, they see new things that they hadn't seen the first time around. That armed with greater understanding, reduced emotional thinking, the greater application of logic, they take new things away from the videos. And it's the same in relation to This One's Wife, where you have an opportunity. I'd encourage you to perhaps revisit some of my older videos, or visit them for the first time if you've only recently joined my channel, so that you can look back on some of the things that occurred and think, gosh, knowing what I know about her now, how interesting it is to look back on that event. And we have an opportunity to do so as a consequence of new disclosures about old events occurring when This One's Wife joined the royal family. Cameron Roy, writing in the Mail, explains, when a new member joins the royal family, they usually need a lengthy period of time to learn the ropes of royal life. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? You're not familiar with the institution. It is unusual. It's not your standard household by any stretch of the imagination. It's subject to conventions, protocols, that there are various procedures and rules. And therefore, if you haven't grown up with this, then you're going to end up needing time to familiarize yourself with them, to assimilate yourself into the institution. Along with being taught the hundreds of etiquette rules, a new member is expected to pick up how to run an army of staff and navigate dozens of high-profile events each month. This can take many months, even years, to get right. So when This One's Wife declared her intention to hit the ground running, before she even married Prince Harry, the palace was filled with dread. Perhaps because it is mostly staffed by upper-class toffs, or maybe simply due to the fact it is a public institution with long-running rules and conventions, the palace operates cautiously and by consensus. It was therefore understandable that the transition from Hollywood showbiz to the almost 18th century life of the royal family was difficult for This One's Wife to manage. Before her marriage to Harry, she was a minor actress whose career had failed to develop beyond her role on the legal drama Suits. Bit of a burn there. But after she joined the firm, she was launched into a totally unfamiliar world. Now, pausing there. It would be unfamiliar for anybody, but this poses a particular problem for a narcissist because the lack of familiarity, the impositions of rules and procedures, as you know, would all go to threaten her need for control. However, her lack of knowledge did not stop her from confidently taking charge, according to a new book. And this is the problem with This One's Wife. Her narcissism causes her to believe that she knows best, that she is the expert, that she doesn't need to listen to what you've got to say because she gets it. You might think to yourself, well, where's the evidence that you get it? For instance, with As Ever, you've never run a business before, but now you're touting yourself as some kind of female founder. That doesn't stack up, but it does in the world of This One's Wife, because remember, she operates behind a distortion field which is ruled by delusion, that is ruled by magical thinking, which tells her, you are an experienced businesswoman. And if you were to say to her, no, you're not, there's no evidence to support that, she doesn't go, oh, you're right, there isn't, is there? Thank you for pointing that out. Her narcissism just says, you don't need to listen to what that person has to say, they're a hater. So she ignores it and maintains that she is an excellent business person. So similarly, when she came along to the royal family, even though she had no experience of royalty, no experience of being in a royal family, she knew best because her narcissism told her. Some of this one's wife's former staff told royal author Tom Quinn of the awkwardness and hilarity of those early meetings at Kensington Palace. One said, it was extraordinary because she was so confident that you could see she wanted to run the meeting, assertion of control, rather than learn about the royal family through the meeting, dismissiveness, haughtiness, lack of accountability. As you will hear, all the things that I'm going to describe to you, you will be able to understand why she was behaving that way because of her narcissism. She was a great believer in grabbing the bull by the horns, provocation, assertion of control, except the royal family is not really a bull. Another added, this one's wife thought she knew better than an institution that has been in business for 1,000 years and more. Arrogance, magical thinking, sense of entitlement. The suggestion that this one's wife had a tendency to be overconfident when it came to her newfound royal status is not a new one. Princess Diana's acquaintance, Tina Brown, wrote in her 2022 book, The Palace Papers, Harry, who had always chafed at the hierarchy himself, was the last person to want to tell her to slow down. They were both now drunk on a shared fantasy of being instruments of global transformation who, once married, would operate in the celebrity stratosphere once inhabited by Princess Diana. This one's wife couldn't and wouldn't bide her time to get there. This is because it's all about the now and the assertion of control in the now and the drawing of the fuel in the now. She was 36. This was her big break. And it seemed this one's wife viewed getting the most out of her staff, using people, as the key to her benefiting from her newfound stardom. Now that she was a member of the royal family, utilization of hierarchy to triangulate for the purpose of control and drawing fuel, not the minor actress she was in her past life, this one's wife's demands, sense of entitlement, apparently grew with her station. She was a modernizer by nature, facade management, after all, and someone who wanted to get things done, change the status quo. Another of the couple's former staffers told Mr. Quinn she really did have a messiah complex, according to his new book, Yes Ma'am, The Secret Life of Royal Servants. I've spoken previously about her messiah complex in the video Saviour Complex, and I'll also be discussing this in a forthcoming video that you can watch tomorrow, where I discuss it with the Duchess of Narcissistic, so look out for that. They pointed out that this one's wife was focused on how she could become the best known, assertion of control, drawing of fuel, etc., and most loved, provision of fuel, member of the royal family. According to one of Elizabeth II's former courtiers, the palace began to worry when they became aware that this one's wife had plans for her life as a working royal that were not compatible with the approved programme, sense of entitlement. However, her desire to do her own thing would never allow her to outshine Princess Anne, Charles, or the late Queen, according to the ex-aide. They added that they didn't think this one's wife understood that, when joining the royal family, you don't do as you please, you do as you are told. This, naturally, amounts to a threat to her need for control. Courtier claimed that this one's wife said, "What Diana started, I want to finish." Character trait acquisition. But they added that although she wanted to follow in her charitable footsteps to some extent, it was on a part-time basis. But then no one said marrying into and finding your place in the royal family was easy. Diana was too young, Sarah Ferguson too headstrong, and even Princess Kate found the transition from middle-class girl to princess tricky. However, Kate did have more success with palace staff, noting to Mr. Quinn that she took a far more careful approach. Staff described her as someone who slowly and carefully absorbs the atmosphere of a place, governed by her emotional empathy, the relationship between people and the rules, sense of accountability. She was definitely not someone who jumps in straight away and tries to change everything to suit her way of thinking. Lack of sense of entitlement. Instead, she decided to bide her time and watch how others behaved first. But perhaps the most important difference between the two women's approach to royal life was that Kate was prepared to be coached, no need for the assertion of control, not just by William, who wanted Kate to avoid the problems his mother had encountered, but also by the staff. In the early days, the worldly Camilla took her under her wing, and Kate, of course, had the sensible and practical support of her family, especially her mother, Carol. Kate's introduction to full-time royal life was gradual, cautious even, and to start with she was mostly a support act for Prince William. And despite the late Queen handing this one's wife some of her trusted hands, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, and Lady Susan Hussey to help this one's wife learn the ropes, she reportedly turned them away. Haughtiness, dismissiveness, I know best, sense of entitlement. However, the attitude of this one's wife knows best seemed to upset the current staff at Kensington Palace. A former member of staff said the old guard really didn't like it when someone from the United States tries to change things, as they are terrific snobs. In actual fact, it's got nothing to do with the fact that she's from the United States with regard to the way that she behaves. It's everything to do with the fact that she's a narcissist. But many people don't recognise that, so they put her behaviour down to being American, when in actual fact, it's down to her being a narcissist. Elsewhere in Mr. Quinn's book, he explained that although this one's wife was indeed branded the Duchess of Difficult by some staff, she did have her supporters. Other ordinary staff liked her feisty and change-hungry nature. Some suggested it was more a case of Duchess different. She is also articulate, no she's not, and sophisticated, no she's not. A woman who before meeting Harry was a human rights activist, character trait acquisition, clean water campaigner, facade management, a woman's advocate, facade management, to the United Nations, and a champion for gender equality, who has only ever used men to get to where she needs to be. Mr. Quinn describes how Kensington Palace staff split into for this one's wife and against this one's wife, and the atmosphere became one of swirling rumour, gossip and backbiting. What a surprise that an individual comes along and joins an institution and already starts to cause dissension amongst people, which is what the narcissist thrives on. Chaos creates fuel. According to his sources, Mr. Quinn explained that this one's wife became especially friendly and close to one particular junior member of staff, but this was seen as inappropriate by the senior royals, lack of boundary recognition. This one's wife also reportedly felt upset because William, as the heir to the throne, was given better treatment by staff than her husband. Threat to control because Harry is an extension of her. But perhaps the biggest problem this one's wife faced when she became a member of the royal family was knowing how to treat servants properly. Blood royals had grown up ordering staff around and knew how to do it properly, but for this one's wife who wasn't used to it, there were problems. One former staffer told Mr. Quinn that this one's wife would alternate between being overly friendly and hugging staff, benign manipulations, lack of boundary recognition, to irritated when they didn't immediately respond, threat to control. This one's wife reportedly felt that Harry was too deferential to both his family and to the staff, threat to control by extension. Mr. Quinn believed she didn't like the fact that Harry tended to ask staff if they would mind tidying up or bringing something to him, demonstrating his politeness. In Buckingham Palace, Washbish below stairs staff jokingly referred to this one's wife and Harry as Monica and Chandler, after two of the characters in the long-running American sitcom Friends. In the series, control freak Monica is played by Courtney Cox, and amiable but weak Chandler by Matthew Perry. Over time, the rumours about this one's wife's behaviour towards staff began to appear in the press more and more. This resulted, of course, in the investigation and the suggestion of bullying. Some observations about this one's wife's behaviour there, covered by Tom Quinn in his new book, for when she joined the royal family. And as always, by understanding that she's a narcissist, this allows you to have complete understanding of why she behaves as she does. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.